So we're going to start here with the Philadelphia Eagles, Colin. 2-1, but have made some poor decisions by their head coach the last two games, okay? Eagles, big schedule, tough schedule. Colin, some things are happening right now. And in a recent podcast appearance, former Eagle Chris Long, who carries a lot of weight in Philadelphia, was very critical of Nick Sirianni's decisions in clutch situations.
I like Nick. I think Nick has done a good job. No, really, I do. It's just right now he's kind of under a microscope because of the decisions he's making.
Yeah.
He's not even calling the game. Yeah. So that's my thing. It's like you got to own the feeling of the flow of the game. And to me, I said on my pod, I would give him a mirror. Look in it. This is not the same team, certainly not yesterday, that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, where you're going to score 40 points a game. You have to sometimes lay up. And when you got Saquon Barkley, you got to give him the damn ball. You saw what happened yesterday. Any 3-yard gain could turn to 70.
You know, so here's what's funny. Right? We have kind of laughed this year that Sam Darnold has become what I thought he would become, right? And so he finally needed the perfect fit. Now, I think the bubble will burst eventually. Could burst in Lambeau this weekend. I think Green Bay is very good. But fans disappear when they're wrong. We have to do a show. So when Nick Sirianni got the job, I said on the air, based on two sources, he was not ready for the job. I was told he could be a good coach, but he's not ready. And then he had the press conference that was humiliating. And then he started slowly. And I was right. And then he gets Shane Steichen, and everybody's like, you don't know what you talk about, guys, unbelievable. And now again, we're going back to pre-Steichen calling the plays. Is that this was always the thing. Like Freddie Kitchens got a head job in Cleveland. He was not ready for the job. I mean, that guy in San Francisco when Harbaugh left, Jim Tom Sula. The opening press conference was a disaster. There are coaches that get fired. They're ready for the job, but circumstances, like Frank Reich did a really good job in Indianapolis and got fired by an impulsive owner, and they've never really kind of recovered, right? And I love Steichen. But with Nick, and this doesn't happen very often. It may be every third coaching cycle, every third year, a guy gets a job, but he's not ready for it. Now, that doesn't mean he can't grow into it. Shane Steichen stays one more year. Maybe he sponges more information. But it does feel like with Sirianni, we are getting back to the press conference, the pre-Shane Steichen, where we're just not sure. Eagles, Philly fans, Philly media, we're not quite sure he's a head coach. But they have so much damn talent. A-plus GM, A-plus owner, super talented quarterback. Again, you can fool. I could win a few hands of poker playing with a poker pro if I got great cards. But eventually, over 8 hands, 10 hands, 12 hands, I get humiliated. If we're getting to a point now, like, people are questioning, is he a head coach? Brandon Staley, we figured it out.
That's the perfect comparison.
He just was not a head coach.
You could see it early with Staley and the Chargers, and everybody saw it. But they got lucky, got to the playoffs,
they weren't winning enough.
Job. The next year, it flipped, and it was over. They fire him midseason. I'm not saying that's where Sirianni's headed.
Okay, but let me ask you
Colin,
this.
Things are not. You don't hear Chris Long, a very respected Eagle. It's one thing if you and I call out Sirianni. It's another for Chris Long to go out there when they're 2-1.
Ask yourself this. So we had questions about Brandon Staley early, but they did get to the playoffs. Yeah. And then it crashed. Could I not argue at the end of last year, Philadelphia crashed?
Oh, no, they were 10-1 and then cratered. It was awful.
So they did a Staley. Yeah. They just have better players, a top owner, at the time considered a top GM. They just had a better infrastructure. But Philadelphia did a Chargers where there was like mutiny in the locker room, like players. By the way, we heard a story that Sirianni and Jalen Hurts struggled.
So in this week,
it's got a Chargers-Staley feel to it a little, but they just win more because they had so many good quality elements.
There's a lot of injuries in Philadelphia this week. Colin, if they lose to Tampa, okay, and we know that people are out on Sirianni 2 straight weeks, I just wonder, man, dude, Monday morning, are we talking about, hey, is Bill Belichick the next coach of the Eagles? I think that's a perfect fit. That's a great job for Belichick. Great city, passionate, a lot of talent. That division's not great. Belichick could dominate with the Eagles, Colin.
Remember, Brandon Staley, for a year, He was smart, good-looking guy. He had a plan, but it was by year 2 and 3. By year 2, he started going against his plan. Remember, he was like, go for it, guy, and then he started punting, and you're like, oh, he doesn't even believe in his plan anymore. That was your fastball. Now you're not throwing your fastball. And so Sirianni, it's all my magic with Jalen Hurts. It's like, now we hear a story that Jalen Hurts and Sirianni struggle. That's your fastball.
And just like in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and Peterson, I'm sorry, guys, nobody's moving off Jalen Hurts. You're not doing that. At least not this year.
No.
If it continues, who knows? But all right, let's get to the next story.
All right, there's a lot to unpack here. First and foremost, Chris Long is loved and all that, and won the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. But thinking that he has this pool in the city, I don't really know what J-Mac is talking about in that regard. People listen to voices and stuff like that, but Chris Long is just another voice that people will be like, yeah, I agree, I disagree. Yeah, I agree, I disagree. This isn't, Chris Long isn't Jason Kelsey or something. Or heck, even Nick Foles for that matter. So I'm not entirely sure what he meant by that. And he says people listen to him, and who are these people? Is he talking about within the organization? Is he talking about fans? I don't know. And it was funny because J-Mac also said before that the Eagles are the Eagles fans are starting to get fed up with Jalen Hurts, and now he's like, oh, they're not moving on from Jalen Hurts. So kind of just a little bit all over the place. But with all that said, with all that kind of set there is listen, I agree with Chris Long 1,000%. 1,000%. Nick Sirianni is not good situationally. He's just not. And I don't think he's a great coach. And I know other players have now come out in support of him, like Dallas Goedert, I saw came out and said I love Sirianni. He's the best, yada, yada, yada. But one, you can't always trust players' opinions. 2, what do you want him to say, in the media? Sirianni's awful. He keeps trying to have us lose games. We got to get rid of this guy. That's just, it's not how things work. And so the players loved Staley. They loved him in Los Angeles, and it obviously was not good. They loved Freddie Kitchens in Cleveland, right? So who players like and don't always shape up to what actually matters or what actually helps support the team. And I'm not sure if J-Mac, if he's talking about if they lose to the Bucks, are they going to fire Sirianni and then hire Bill Belichick mid-season? I'm not really sure if they meant after this season or how that would all unfold. It would be pretty thought-provoking to think that if they lose to the Buccaneers, they would be 2-2, fire Sirianni, and then hire Bill Belichick mid-season, or not even mid-season, right? The first quarter of the season. I don't know what that looks like in practice, quite honestly. I don't know if, I believe in Bill Belichick's ability to just walk in there and get things going. But at the same time, I don't know if he would even want that. If he would be like, yeah, you can hire me, but we're going to start next season. You're not bringing me in. I don't know. Honestly, I really have no idea. Or if the Eagles would even do that, or, what the situation would be. I do agree that any loss, is really going to fall on Sirianni, because even when he won against the Saints, I don't think it was really a win for Nick Sirianni. It felt more like people felt that the Eagles won despite Sirianni. And that is the thing that I don't understand that the Eagles are doing. I don't understand why they didn't fire him at the end of last season, or just, when the season was over, excuse me. I hiccuped on the truth. I don't understand why, I always get the hiccups when I record because I think I breathe in so much air. That Sirianni is I don't understand, because it's very clear, I think, to a lot of people that Nick Sirianni isn't a great coach. I have only ever seen a few fans in the comment section be like, Sirianni has led the Eagles to the playoffs every single year, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, this is a great organization, great culture, great players. That's what happened. And quite frankly, right, Shane Steichen was a massive part of that. And Shane Steichen is one that was really able to make something out of nothing. Jalen Hurts' first year as a starter. And then when you actually start to get a legit weapons and a legit team, they were able to get to the Super Bowl. And again, Shane Steichen was a huge part of that. Now that Shane Steichen's gone, the team is still stacked and has so many weapons. And now a lot of these younger guys are, becoming true seasoned veterans. And yeah, they're not going to be a complete disaster, but coaching does not put them in positions to succeed. I think Dallas Goedert, I didn't really listen to it, but I think I saw or read before I started recording that he said, he trusts us so much. That's why he puts us in that situation. I get that. all coaches trust their team, but it doesn't mean that it's always smart. And that's what Chris Long was saying. Like, understand the situation at hand. Understand that you have to play situational football. Look no further than what Andy Reid does, Sean McVay does. Like, just look at what the great coaches consistently do. And it's just frustrating that you see Sirianni just not do that. Same thing with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, which I talked about in a previous video, and Lions fans are just not happy about it. They're like, this is our identity. And it's like, great, well, your identity won't win you a Super Bowl. Congratulations then. I don't know what to tell you. You got to be adaptable in the game. You don't just come with a game plan and that's it. And nothing else, and we don't deviate that from that, and we don't adapt, we don't learn, we don't grow. You got to learn and grow within the game and from week to week. And you don't necessarily see that with the Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Sirianni. So I really understand a lot of the hate for Nick Sirianni. I really do. I do understand that he is under a microscope, and he did bring it onto himself. And yeah, I do wonder what the Eagles should do. Honestly, they should absolutely take a page out of the Cleveland Cavaliers book, right? Right now, they're in first place or tied for first place, and they're technically, top team in the NFL, like the Cleveland Cavaliers were, first place, LeBron James, and they fired, I forget that guy's name, David, whatever, and then they hired, Lou, and so that's what they did, and then they ended up winning, right? And I think that the Eagles should do that as well. They should say, we're winning, we have a good team, we have a great team. We've had some hard-fought wins. Nick Sirianni, we got to move on from this. We made a mistake. We got to move on from this. And if it is Bill Belichick or if it's someone else, I don't know. I'm not gonna say Bill Belichick is going to be able to lead this team to the promised land. I really have no idea, because I would want to know who is Bill Belichick going to keep from an offensive coordinating standpoint. I think what he did with New England was really bizarre and absurd, and I don't know if now he's been humbled and he learned and now he's going to kind of get back to his roots. You'd have to really figure that out, quite frankly. I think Bill Belichick is still obviously a top level all-time great coach, but the concern is like, well, what is he going to do offensively? And you really need to support Jalen Hurts with a bright mind, because the Philadelphia Eagles can see when they have a bright mind in Shane Steichen, magic happens. Jalen Hurts literally is an MVP. So, and balls out in a Super Bowl. Like, that's what's at stake. So if Bill Belichick can bring that aspect and even help Jalen Hurts even improve as a quarterback, well, then, then bring it on. Let's go. But unfortunately, I'm not seeing the Eagles being that bold where even if they beat the Buccaneers or lose to the Buccaneers, that they're going to fire Sirianni and bring in someone like a Bill Belichick, in the 5th week of the season. I would be shocked. I'm all for it, honestly, just from just a consumer and a fan of interested in what's happening around the NFL, right? Like, I always say this, I'm a general NFL fan. So if you're telling me that something like that could happen in the middle of the season, I'm like, all right, yeah, I want to see this. Like, it's, it's a new show, right? Like, it's a series premiere. Let's bring it on. Let's go. Because the whole thing with Sirianni is to me is getting old, just like it got old in LA, just like it's kind of getting old in Detroit already. Like, I understand what Detroit is trying to do, and that's part of their culture, but it's something that I really think that it's also potentially putting them, on their back foot. And I don't think that Dan Campbell is a bad coach or anything, but I think some of the aggression is smart, but also they do it sometimes in ways that are not smart. And that's the problem. You got to be smart. If you're going to be an NFL coach, you have to be smart. You just do. Like Colin said, I think this is very accurate. You can get away winning hands playing poker. You can go to the casino and win millions of dollars and be terrible at poker. You just can't. I played poker for many years, and anyone can win. That was the whole thing. Anyone can win, famously by Chris Moneymaker winning the World Series of Poker, and that's what really skyrocketed, because he was just like an amateur, random guy, and now he's continued to play over these years, and he's not really done much of anything. And the real guys who are actually legitimately great at poker and are hyper intelligent and understand everything, they continue to win. So you can't always just go by short-term success. And yes, even in the NFL, a couple seasons, 2-3 seasons is short-term, right? We're talking about on a long enough timeline. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what the Eagles do, honestly, because you have these other teams coming. You have the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels, right? Like, they are not going to be scrubs for much longer. If not already, it's already a thing in the past. The Dallas Cowboys seem to be kind of going left and right, up and down, and same thing with the New York Giants, but the Cowboys are still always going to be a formidable foe. Dak is still a legit quarterback in the NFL that obviously is more than capable of beating the Philadelphia Eagles, and you never know what Jerry Jones will do. Maybe he goes out and gets Bill Belichick, and now you got to face Bill Belichick 2 times a year. Like, it's just, it's definitely the definition of we're playing chess, not checkers here in football. So yeah, just really interesting to see what the Eagles do, and what other coaches are on their radar, right? Like, are they thinking like the Kubiaks, this Bobby Slowicks, the Ben Johnsons, or is it more, old school with the Bill Belichick, or like some other random person that was on no one's radar, which is what they did with Doug Peterson and Nick Sirianni, and even the college coach Chip Kelly. Right, like that. The Eagles are notorious for just like hiring random coaches that were not at the top of anyone's list, quite frankly. So, yeah, I don't know. Right? Does Lincoln Riley randomly go to the Philadelphia Eagles? I have zero idea, obviously. But I'm all for watching it unfold. The game versus the Bucs should be a fun game. I'm not sure what the collection of injuries are for the Eagles right now, who's going to actually be playing, who's not. So I don't have a strong feeling of how that game will unfold. Same thing, because I know the Bucs have a bunch of injuries as well. But I do know, this will be the last thing I say, it's not a good look to have the Bucs get steamrolled from the Denver Broncos rookie quarterback Bo Nix. And if the Eagles don't have a convincing win, or if they lose, yeah, you can't have a rookie quarterback with a clearly inferior team for the Denver Broncos rock the Bucs, make the Bucs look lost and confused start to finish, and then have the Bucs now turn around and go beat the Eagles, who have Super Bowl aspirations. Yeah, that would be a doomsday scenario, I believe, in Philadelphia. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Nick Sirianni? What do you think the Eagles should do? Do you think that they're a great team? Sirianni's a great coach. Do you think Sirianni is a serious problem for them, a serious liability? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.